Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's Miscellaneous Gab, and today we're going to be talking about White Lotus Season 3, Episode 2. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce you to my emotional support orangutan. I have also decided that for the remainder of my White Lotus content, I will be wearing what I like to call outfits I bought while living in Thailand that I can't necessarily wear in the middle of winter where I currently am. For my Severance content, I will be wearing business casual. We begin this episode with a sort of voyeuristic shot like we ended the last episode. And there's this theme going on throughout the season that somebody is watching. Monkeys are shown repeatedly, showing that, hey, no matter what sort of schemes that you're talking about, no matter what sort of cons you're playing, there is somebody always watching. There is somebody always listening. We open where we left off, which is Kate and Jacqueline talking smack about their friends. We sort of get this idea that Jacqueline and Kate are slightly closer, although none of them see each other quite often enough. Although everyone is like shitting on them for talking smack, and I know gossiping is bad, I'm pretty sure we've all been in this position before, starting from a concerned place, but some of your biases or some of your thoughts come through. I don't think at any point they're like, we hate this girl. As a group of 3 girls, it is always hard. There is always someone that feels excluded. And I thought Lori was going to be this one, but we see later that it's not just Lori. They get interrupted with who they thought was a monkey, but is actually Lori, slightly intoxicated, coming back to grab her charger. There's this idea that if she had just kind of not come and banged on and been a little less abrasive in her entry, she may have even been able to overhear what they are saying. They then do something that feels really fake, which is they argue over who's gonna get Lori all to themselves and how much they love her and how great it is that she's there. It's this sort of half telling the truth thing that makes me feel like they know exactly what they're doing. Now we open with another shot with Saxon laying there with his butt out and his little brother Locke staring straight at it. Nothing says good morning like seeing your brother's bare ass. We know how Saxon finished the night before. It's giving very creepy. We'll talk more on their sibling relationship later. We then check in on Victoria, who is knocked the F out from her lorazepam. I love her in this episode. I know some people it's like you can't stand her in the best way. I also didn't know that Tim was Lucius Malfoy. That has been recently brought to my attention and now I can't unsee it. Saxon is such a wannabe. You can tell he wants to be like his father in more ways than one. His father said he doesn't like taking drugs and Saxon's like, yeah, me neither. And then his sister's like, well, unless you count Adderall, that definitely counts, and steroids and everything else you're on. Then we get to this very awkward and interesting scene. Kate evidently recognizes Victoria from a baby shower. At first I thought it was like the other week. Victoria says 10 years ago. I don't know if it was truly 10 years ago. I think if it really was 10 years ago, it would be understandable that you might not recognize them. My whole vibe here is that maybe Victoria's a hardcore lorazepam user and she's just faded all the time and legitimately has no memory of this person. But then there's also another way of looking at it, which is that Victoria was quite rude. Even if you don't remember someone, you could be like, oh yeah, I totally remember you. That was so fun. And you can kind of play it off, but it almost felt like Victoria was trying to be rude, GTFO. Now, I find that in today's society, people are maybe overly nice and accommodating when they shouldn't be. This is a girl who seems to know her boundaries. And even when she was confronted by her son, she's like, I don't care. What do I care about her? What do I care about her dumb friend actress? She's probably a prostitute anyway. We do get some helpful lines delivered here by Victoria, some drops of truth. You know, most people are scammers and you gotta watch your back. She seems very clan mindset. I have my people right here. I don't give a crap about anyone else and I don't really, no new friends, Victoria. Talks about how most people are scammers, and little does she know that there's a lot of scamming going on. We're gonna talk about how many scammers there are in this episode and who is scamming, who is definitely running a con and who might be running a con. And the irony is that her husband is caught up in some sort of con scam. Jacqueline and Lori sort of poke fun at Kate, and we get this idea that Kate wants to be remembered. She wants to be the memorable one. And I do feel a lot of competition going on between her and Jacqueline. I love how the Ratliff family all laughs at Victoria, yeah, you have a point. They're all kind of cheesing, laughing at her. The only one who doesn't seem interested here is Piper, who seems a bit annoyed. Now the day begins and everyone begins their treatments. Let's talk about everybody's different treatments. Victoria gets a massage, and in what many would consider to be one of the most relaxing treatments you can get, we learn that she gets stressed out, so she has to down a couple pills so she doesn't feel claustrophobic. There's been so many mentions of the medication and the pills that she's on. Now, I believe there might be a little switcheroo with medicine at some point. Maybe somebody takes her medicine when they're not supposed to. Piper is in a yoga class, and I just have to say that while this show does a great job showing the sort of overstimulation of the jungle, the noises, everything, they're not doing an amazing job showing just how freaking hot it is in Thailand. I know these are movie stars, everyone's meant to look beautiful and perfect, but the reality is if you take one step outside, you are like covered in sweat at any time of year. Piper's doing yoga and gets really creepily stared at by a LBH and is trying to be friendly, but is clearly grossed out. Lachlan is in a sensory deprivation tank. I think this is interesting because he's really like figuring out who he is, and I think he's torn between looking up to his older brother or hearing out his sister's sensibilities. We see who he has as parents. Saxon has a massage. He's bummed that it's not a happy ending, and he's pretty excited, shall we say, about his massage. Lucius Malfoy tries to enjoy a run on the treadmill, but is very bothered by the fact that there's such a time difference. He can't get a hold of Kenny. He can really tell that maybe something is wrong here, and he's trying to get ahead of it. Valentine seems to flatter Lori. A little bit of flirting here. Speaking of scammers, let's identify scammer number one, which I think is Valentine. I think he's definitely running maybe multiple scams. He clearly knows that he is handsome, clearly knows that he has some charm and a way with ladies, and I think at the very most innocent end of that spectrum, he might be using that to get laid or to hook up with hotel guests by saying exactly what a woman in her 40s wants to hear, which is that your numbers look like a woman half her age. But I also think he is involved on the jewelry heist scam, as he was there distracting Gaituk with promises of joining a fight, inclusion, hanging with the guys right when that SUV kind of went through that barricade and ultimately was responsible for the robbery that we see later on in this episode. Now, Belinda is doing a treatment exchange with Porn Chai where they're both swapping wellness tips. We don't get a lot of Belinda in this episode, but we definitely catch her checking out Porn Chai, who is jacked under that work uniform that he's wearing. And I think maybe Belinda might be in for more than one special treatment. I love how Chelsea is just talking nonstop to her massage therapist. I think Chelsea is this very doe-eyed, innocent person. She's talking about the Enneagram type that she is and even telling the healer what she thinks she is. I've definitely met this type of person a lot that likes to be defined by their horoscope, their Enneagram, whatever kind of test they've taken. But not only that, but then you're telling somebody else who they are. There's this clear compulsion for Chelsea to gab and overshare, which will lead me to probably the next scammer situation that we'll get into in a little bit between Chloe and Greg Gary. Now, then we get into the super interesting wellness, meditation, de-stress situation between Rick and Amrita. You can tell she's like, okay, I got this. Like, he might be a tough nut to crack, but I am a professional. I know what to do here. And it seems like as she cracks through, there's just this depressing void, and he seems really self-aware of his void. Normally, when you work with an asshole, you're like, you know what? You've never done therapy. You've never done any introspection. Can I blow your mind real quick? Let's get to the bottom of your trauma and your stress. He's like, nah, there's just nothing there. He talks about his horrid, traumatic past of his mother ODing, his father getting killed before he was even born. And he's just like, yep, there's nothing there. I have this terrible past and I'm just nothing. It's not just something I tell myself. If there's no gas in the car, it won't start. Absolute nihilism, this like brick wall of she's trying to do her best as a professional, and it's clear she believes in what she's doing. But at a certain point, you're like, man, I can't help you. You go be your weird, void, vacuous self Goodbye. Although the treatments were meant to relax people, the only person who truly feels relaxed is Victoria. And we don't know if that's from the massage or the lorazepam. She's definitely a little giggly, a little slurry, and she is trying to order some snacks to the room while Saxon is going around causing a ruckus looking for a blender for his protein shakes. It looks like Victoria has the munchies. Saxon talks about how the massage wasn't great because it didn't have a happy ending. Victoria laughs, Piper looks disgusted. A lot of people are commenting on this family's strange dynamics, and I'd like to shed some light here. I think there are some abnormal dynamics in this family. I think what Saxon did in the bedroom was totally inappropriate. I think that Saxon talking about his sister being hot and her virginity is pretty inappropriate. But comments like these, I don't know, guys. Like, my family is like that. I come from a big family. Everyone is loud and inappropriate. I could see someone making a comment like that and everybody laughing. Now, I think the only difference here is that Saxon really means it. Like, he did have an erection. He did have an erection during his massage. Some of that can be just slightly normal in a family that shares things or likes to joke around, but then there's definitely like very abnormal things going on here. And I think when Piper and Lachlan are in the water hammocks, which it does look like that's kind of the viewpoint we get from the opening shot of the episode, when he's like, oh, Saxon said this about you, that sibling gossip, the kind of like through the grapevine, listen to what he said about you, like that feels like normal sibling behavior. But then Lachlan, being this young adolescent guy, being like, well, is it true? One-on-one with his sister, that felt slightly strange to me. I have seen a couple theories out there that Rick is actually looking for his father and Jim Hollinger might be his father. I'm not a fan of that theory. Like, I can see it. I think it's fun. I really think that like he has this nihilistic view of the world. I do think he might be running a scam. So we have scammer number 2, scammer number 3, right? We have Valentine, Tim, and Kenny, and Rick. I think everyone is running a scam in their own way on this show. Maybe except Victoria. Maybe Victoria's just like, I'm just trying to take my lorazepam and fucking chill and eat some Thai food. We then have this endearing scene with Guy Talk and Mook where he sort of makes his best case for why she should date him. Now everyone's kind of laughing of our families know each other, I'm handy, but this is a very Thai thing, right? And it's important in other parts of the world, not just Thailand. It's only in America that we date people for months and months and years and they never meet our family. Not just America, but you know what I mean. In other cultures, family is way more at the center. Mook kind of shakes him off and is like, don't be stupid. We're friends. We got a big thing going. Don't make it weird. I think that Guy Took, he is really going to either be set up to fail as a fall guy. Like maybe Mook is in on the robbery. Maybe Mook and the Hollinger bodyguards are getting together and they're plotting some sort of thing. And then she sort of uses her goodwill with him and the crush that he has on her. Or maybe he will be set up for some sort of heroic arc or redemption. We know that he overhears Tim on the phone. Now, I've heard other people say, oh, he thinks Tim is involved with the robbery. Why would this rich ass man from the US orchestrate some sort of robbery at the hotel he's staying at to steal some jewelry? Now, I know it's the Four Seasons, might have Bulgari in the gift shop, but come on. Chelsea then talks to Rick about having a dinner with Chloe and her husband, Greg/Gary. She talks about all the things they have in common, such as being old, grumpy, and going bald. Poor Rick is like, I'm not going bald. And she's like, I'm gonna hold your hand while I say this. You're going bald. I was listening to a Nerd Soup analysis and they said that maybe he should stop by Turkey on the way back if he's not banned from Turkey like he is Australia, take a ride on Turkish Airlines. We get another weird moment between the 3 girlfriends where Lori's feeling herself. She's like, I got good numbers, Valentine approves. And then Jacqueline's like, well, I got good numbers and I can't believe we're the same body fat percentage. Like almost body shames her a little bit. Kate, meanwhile, who seems to be like the skinniest person there, is like, well, I got average numbers. This whole time I'm thinking, you know what? Jacqueline is a good friend, right? She's trying not to let fame and money corrupt her. She's taking her 2 good friends out on this vacation. But I did get Mean Girl vibes a little bit from her. Not Mean Girl, but maybe overcompensating. I got overcompensation vibes from her, trying to one-up Lori instead of just letting her have her moment where she was happy about her numbers and could feel good about herself, especially given the conversation that they had the night before. You think if you really do feel compassion for your friend and feel like she's gone through through a hard time with her divorce and maybe her weird daughter. Saxon walks by Chelsea and Chloe trying to get some. I think that Chloe and Greg are running a scam together. Well, Greg is obviously like king scammeroo. She's trying to maybe scam Chelsea and Rick, but also could potentially go out, try to seduce Saxon to scammeroo. Now let's talk about the robbery. I do not believe that any hotel guests helped orchestrate this robbery, but I do think it could potentially be that Chloe is involved in this somehow because she very conveniently hiding out. In reality, I do probably think that this is organized by some of the hotel adjacent people, such as Valentine, maybe the bodyguards as well. If we look at the clientele that comes to the White Lotus, I know that Chloe isn't staying at the White Lotus, but these people are richer than rich. They think $10 million is a small amount of money. Srijala gives a banger of a performance, and she is such a diva. I've said it once, I'll say it a million times. This is a contrast between her and Jacqueline, who maybe is concerned about getting older. There's a lot of talk about what the women do to their faces, who their doctors are, and not that Srijala maybe doesn't have anything done, but it's clear that like she owns her age, she owns her stardom. Then we have these dinner scenes where everyone's hanging out. A weird joke moment from Saxon talking about the servers and the family laughing. Saxon's definitely that guy who like everyone is just yucking it up over him. I don't think he's maybe ever done anything wrong in his mother's eyes in particular. The way he delivers this line and then starts laughing, it's like he knows. He's like, I got a good one up my sleeve, guys. I wrote this joke on the plane. I have been waiting until we get to Thailand. Tim, who's kind of over everything right now, he's pissed off that they flew all the way over here and Piper hasn't even talked to the damn monk. Victoria tells them they have to be on their guard because they're hot and they come from money and people are gonna want to scam you. Too right she is. It's very interesting that right after she says you have to be on your guard, we cut to the table of scammers in chief, Greg and Chloe.
You have to be on your guard.
And potentially Rick is also a scammer. And this kind of goes to my theory that maybe Chloe will try to seduce Saxon, or there will be something there, because she does say, hey, no matter what flattery, friendliness, no matter what someone's giving you, you gotta be careful. Greg and Rick are trying to make small talk. Greg/Gary says, you know, I've done a little bit of this, I've done a little bit of that. And Rick also says, yeah, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I don't know if it's some ego pissing contest. Gary didn't share, Rick's not going to share, or they're both somewhat involved in similar things. We know that Greg definitely excels in scamming people out of their money and then discarding them like they're just some stuffed animal that nobody cares about. While Greg has been doing his thing, is Chloe off doing her own scam in a similar way, like seducing men, getting in on their money? If you don't want someone to think you're a prostitute, don't say matchmaking service and don't say Dubai. Did you guys know that Greg is Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite? Greg says that Chloe is French and she gets kind of pissed off. Now, I don't know if this is just like an innocent thing. People mix up French, Canadian, French people, and then people have some things to say about it, or he like literally kind of forgets because maybe they're more partners in crime than true lovers. After getting massaged, Belinda looks at Greg and sort of this idea of recognition comes over her face. Now, I love the way that they did this because she is jet lagged. It may have been a couple years since she last saw him. These are just the flavors of familiarity rather than connecting the dots. I honestly think if Greg isn't one of the fallen in this season, I don't know what, like he needs to go. Now, remember, we do have that poison fruit, the Chekhov's fruit, Victoria's pills. There are a lot of other whodunit kind of murder devices, murder weapons, and we all know that poison is a woman's weapon, so maybe Belinda. Justice for Tanya. The episode culminates in one of these most important scenes between Tim and Kenny. He finally gets a hold of Kenny, and Kenny is frantic. He is worse than frantic. He is on the verge of offing himself. 20 federal agents just raided his office. Tim, he basically has no time to cover his tracks here. He is in hot water, and he says, why the F did I do this for you, Kenny? It was only $10 million. Man, I hate it when I launder money just for $10 million. And it's never worth the 10 million, $10 million is such a small, negligent amount of money. I could really see Kenny making true to his word and truly offing himself because he's so freaked out over this. Where does that leave Tim? Is this going to push him to the edge? Will he be involved in the shooting? Or do you think he could be like, all right, you know what, guys? We can't go home. So it's not really about Duke or UNC. We are never going back home. And then he lives out his day as a true loser back home. I talked earlier about how Guy Talk does observe him. I think it does speak to the testament of privilege and these people coming into another country thinking like, yeah, no one's gonna hear me. I can just run my mouth. I can come with the same beliefs and habits and manners, and it's never gonna matter. Again, monkeys are appearing everywhere in this episode. In this show, they're very, very important motif. What if a monkey does the shooting, right? What if they pick up a gun because it's lying on the ground? The gun scoots across, a monkey picks it up and is like, whoa, because we hear one shot. And then it's a while before we hear many, many shots. Maybe it's a monkey. Maybe a monkey is the shooter from the monkey and is like, you know what? We've been watching you guys. Everyone is guilty here. No one is good. Everyone is scamming. Jacqueline says she's going to read the book, Tala's book, which is in Thai, by the way. And she sort of flips between the back cover of a younger photo of Sri Tala and her current photo. And I feel like that's very on point with how she's feeling. I don't want to get too into this Hollywood that once a woman reaches a certain age, she's just like expired milk and your only hope is to be like the silly grandma. Jacqueline is probably going through it, and it probably doesn't help that her fucking friends that she treated to probably a $30,000 to $50,000 vacation are now talking shit about her in the other room. Their shit talking is worse than Jacqueline and Kate's shit talking. It's all like, oh wow, like she looks tired. I think like her husband's such a dick trying to go for alimony. But this seems to be taking more shots. Like, what did she do to her face? It looks like she sandblasted her face. Oh, she's so competitive. She really has to one up us. Because I truly think both of these women are jealous of Jacqueline. So when you're jealous of somebody, you probably are a lot more vicious. You're doing it when she's like 20 feet away from you. Bad girls. Now the episode ends with Tim just looking defeated and pissed, watching his family arrive back at their villa and overhearing. Lachlan is talking about a tsunami that happened in Phuket and how a girl tried to warn them. She had learned about them in class and nobody was really listening to her. I feel like this little anecdote and story is kind of interesting. It's about that warning that goes unheeded. All in all, interesting episode. I feel like it helped move it right along. What do you guys think of the people watching from afar, the monkeys, the eavesdropping? There's a lot of eavesdropping going, a lot of scamming. I'm excited to see people's scams coalesce. I would love to take a moment to thank all of my Patreon subscribers, everyone who is a paid member. Thank you so much, but I would like to specifically shout out my Waffle Party VIPs. We have some new faces around here. Thank you guys so much for your support. Thank you to Bo Dierker, Chris Bazeski, Jim Rodney, Mr. Vaca, Dave is Crushing, Matt Winbury, Daniel Ariano, and Dolores Abernathy, who's new around here. Thank you guys so much for your support. Thank you to everyone else. And one quick thing I want to say, I am so humbled and grateful as my YouTube community continues to grow. You guys are truly, truly the best. Just like I did for my Waffle Party giveaway, as my channel grows, I really want to use it for good. So today, since we're talking about monkeys, since we're talking about the orangutan, I just want to tell you guys about a cause that I support, which is called the Orangutan Project. I donate to every month. It helps rehome and rehabilitate orangutans whose environments are destroyed by palm oil farming and other destructive environmental practices. I'll drop the link below. If anything, just follow them on social media because they post really cute videos and pictures of orangutans as well as the orangutans that need adoption and need support. Thank you guys so much. Stay tuned for my Severance videos coming out soon. Let me know what other shows you want me to review. I'm thinking about From, even though I am a scaredy cat when it comes to horror. But let me know what you guys are thinking. See you next time. Stay safe out there. Bye.